All right, so as you can see, here's our EGR valve. I'm sitting kind of on the top driver's side, on the back, on top of the exhaust manifold. And looking in here, you can see right there, that's gonna be the exhaust manifold, and there's the tube that goes, the pipe that goes from the manifold to the bottom of the EGR. And then under here, there's another one that sticks out. And you can see it routes itself into the side of the intake manifold, just to show a little bit of a physical description on how it operates. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and test all the voltages. All the wires starting at the green and black, that can be reference low. It's not currently reading anything. Now on the tan and green wire, that is meaning the low reference. It is also reading 0 volts. The pink and yellow wire, which is going to be the sensor signal, it's actually reading 0.4 volts. But when we refer back to the scan tool, it's only 0.86 volts. All right, so now we're tapped into the gray and black wire, which would be the 5 volt reference. We're currently only getting 2.4 volts. We found that to be a little strange, considering it's supposed to be the 5 volt reference as shown in the diagram. But we also tested it by disconnecting the connector, and then probing into the connection. So it wasn't plugged in the sensor. The sensor couldn't have been using any of the voltage, and it was still only reading 2.4 volts. So we suspect there might be an issue, which we explained before with our vehicle not starting. And lastly, we're in the white and pink wire, which would be a high control. We're also getting 0 volts on that.
All right, so me and Bailey back here on the Buick Lucerne, and we were reading about half the voltage, about 2.4 volts on our 5 volt reference, and our sensor signal was actually reading, it was about I think it was 0.4 volts, and on here, scan tool, it shows it was 0.8. And we think that might be a related issue with some of the problems we were having with the car and the EGR system functioning, because we did go to start it up and it ran fine. And then after we went to go shut the car back off again, we had unplugged the EGR and plugged it back in, and it did not want to start. It just struggled like crazy. After letting the car sit for a little bit, clearing a couple codes, it was eventually be able to start back up. So we think that might have something to do with it. We are not too sure though.
All right, so moving over to testing PCV systems over on the Buick. As you can see, this is gonna be the only PCV line we actually have. This goes from the intake manifold over to right before the throttle body. As you see, there is no valve on it. That's because, taking a look over here, the valve is gonna be integrated into the intake manifold. We've already taken it out for testing. We'll go ahead and show you how to test the PCV valve and go into some of the characteristics of it.
All right, so here we have the variable PCV valve, and you can hear right now it shakes, so it is freed up. So we do know it is functioning right now.
All right, so looking through all data, we scrolled through all the tabs looking for a service interval. A lot of it just goes over the hose itself. There's very few about the actual valve itself. But we come to the conclusion that it is replaceable. Obviously, you can pretty easily take it out, but there is no set interval for replacing it. So we would just say to replace it when needed. All right, now we got the vehicle running. We're gonna go ahead and unplug that fresh air tube. The one that goes straight into the intake, getting the fresh air. And then if you take a piece of paper, dollar bill test, put it over that, you can see that there is suction on that. There's vacuum on that. It's not a lot, but it's a noticeable. You can't really feel it too much. Just feel the oil draft, but well, it's enough to hold a piece of paper.
All right, so finishing it up here, we are going to pop open the oil cap, and you can see there's not really anything in there, pretty much no oil. Same goes for the filler neck as well. This car only has about 157 miles on it, so it doesn't have really any time driving on the road, and it's been sitting in the auto shop, which is pretty consistent temperature all year round, and due to that, it doesn't really have any condensation. So if it did go on short drives, or say it was started up outside in the cold for a little while, you would see that gunky milkshake type ring around the oil cap. All right, so testing for blow by now, just to see what we got. Take our oil cap and we'll just set it right on there. And as you can see, it is fine. We really have nothing. We'll try a piece of paper next. And as you can see, there is none.
Blow-by is a pretty normal occurrence, especially in vehicles with a little bit higher mileage. Just to show you, one of the main causes of blow-by is going to be when the piston is in the cylinder. The rings will still be pretty compressed, but there is that little bit of gap there that is going to let air go from the top of the cylinder into the crankcase. And in this case, it goes inside, and then it will go through the oil over into, in this case, the heads where the fill tube is, and then it'll just blow air out of there.